All right, so we'll get started. I'm gonna close this door before security comes. Gets irritated because it never unlocked. Okay. So this is hopefully recording. I think it's for sure live streaming, so it didn't work last time, but maybe this time it will. Okay, so just a little overview of what it's going to look like today. I have just some general tips and rules for submissions, what criterion you're going to be evaluated on for 3 different conferences if you were to submit to one of them, and then we'll have some Q&A with Elise and Marshall. Thank you all for being here, by the way. So to start, the deadlines come up pretty quickly. These are just the deadlines for the 3 conferences that we're going to go over today. So ARA's deadline is mid to late July, and their process is probably the most involved. And so if you're interested in attending ARA, I would say go ahead and get started on that. ASH's deadline is in mid-April. They just shortened their requirements. Their word limit is now 1,500 words, and it was longer. So I feel like 2 months is probably feasible to get that done. And then CIES is mid-October, so plenty of time for that. Read the call for proposals for each of these associations, because honestly, everything that you need to know is going to be in that. They vary in specificity, so ARA's is it's like 20 pages long. Like, it's very in-depth. ASH is a little bit shorter, and then CIES is the shortest. Kind of like before you start a paper, you do an outline, sketch out what your plan might be for this proposal, and then a lot of associations ask you to identify a division or a special interest group, which they call SIGs, or committee that you're submitting the paper to for review. And so you can go ahead and start scoping that out to see what might be best aligned with your interests. Definitely get your advisor's input, because we're all students here, and there are so many more things that we have to learn. And your advisor could have input that on a particular conference about something that he or she has experienced that you don't know about, some tricks of the trade. So definitely get their input and feedback. Make edits. I know sometimes it's hard as students because we get a lot of edits at times, and it can feel a little disheartening when you turn something in and work really hard on and you get a lot of edits back. But they're for a good reason, and they're not personal. So I've had to learn over the past 2 years, especially, to not take that feedback or those edits personally, because it can hurt sometimes. Some associations do require you to join as a member before you submit proposals. This isn't super common, but just make sure that you check beforehand, because you don't want your submission to be denied because of that. And then pursue funding. There are a lot of different funding sources. The department is very generous, I have found. CORE is also pretty generous as well. And you can apply for the College of Education scholarships, which that process is currently open. I think it closes at the end of the month. COGS has also been very generous. And then your assistantship, if you have one, might have funds. If you don't know, just ask, and all they can do is say no. And then sometimes associations have funds for graduate students set aside. So I know ARA has been sending out emails to grad students about funding to travel to Canada, because that's expensive. Okay, so first we're going to go over the rules for ARA, and these apply for papers, posters, and roundtables. They don't require that you be a member to submit. This is pretty standard for all of them. You can't double dip and send something here that you've already presented at CIES or that you've published somewhere else. You choose one section or one SIG to submit your proposal to, so be sure that you're identifying that intentionally beforehand. So they say that the proposal has to be a completed study. But that's in quotes, because they do accept like preliminary work or something that's kind of ongoing. And then you can submit the final version or the final paper a month before the conference. So if you submitted next month for ARA, you have a year to finish that before the next conference, because the deadline is in July, and then you have until the following year, a month before, to submit the actual paper. And so it can come in a lot of different, or there's the proposal, it can come in a lot of different formats. It can be a literature review, it can be something theoretical or conceptual, and again, it can be on preliminary data. There is a blind review process through this, so the reviewers won't know who you are, and you won't know who they are when you get their feedback. And there is a 2,000 word limit for paper submissions for ARA and a 500 word limit for session submissions. So I didn't realize the difference between the two before, because you always hear people talking about paper submissions. That is the most common, especially for ARA. That's when you submit an actual paper with you and potentially other co-authors, and you intend to present that in a paper session with 3 or 4 other individuals who also submitted a paper on a similar topic. It could also be for a poster presentation session or a roundtable session. And then a session submission seems to be a little bit more interactive, more individuals in that group. So they have like symposiums are listed in there, working group roundtables. And so it seems a little bit less formal than the paper submission process. It also seems a little bit easier. And so if this is your first time submitting to a national or an international conference, you might want to try for the session submission, or you can just go for the paper submission and see what happens. I literally don't know anyone who hasn't been rejected. So it happens. Our faculty still get rejected, and they are like, some of them have tenure. So it's not personal. It could just be that the theme of the conference is kind of narrow when what you're working on doesn't fit the theme, or that there are just a lot of other really great people out there submitting proposals as well. So these are the 6 things that reviewers for ARA looking at in proposals. I recommend using these as like the headings as you go throughout your proposals. So I gave handouts of 2 qualitative and 1 quantitative proposals. One of them is from a student in the department, and I think it was accepted. I think that's why she was like, yeah, share this, because it was a positive outcome. And these others were posted on ARA's website. So they have a lot of other proposals listed as well, and some are like definitely not from graduate students. And so I did not print those because I didn't know what it was talking about partially. But these I felt were very easy to understand and kind of follow, so that you could have a guide. If you are planning on submitting, you can have an example of what it's supposed to look like. So this link, and I will link to this presentation on the Learn Facebook page, but this link will take you to the call for proposals for ARA. So you can see all of the things that they're looking for, all of the instructions and whatnot as well. So for ASH, this isn't as common among ELP students, but some of you might have research interests that kind of go over into higher ed or impact higher ed. And so you might be surprised that they are looking for topics that might be more K-12 focused as well. So for ASH, these things look probably very similar to ARA because they are. Membership isn't necessary. You can't double dip. You do have to choose one specific SIG or section. They don't have to be complete papers. And again, double blind. This one's only 1,500 words though, so a little bit shorter. I know that our papers, like our final papers for classes, are more than 1,500 words. And so you have written papers already. You can take a stab at kind of cutting back some of the extra detail or the fluff that you might have put in there to get to whatever the page limit or requirement was, and easily submit a proposal. I know that last year, Haley Spencer in higher ed submitted her paper from our student development theory class and got accepted as a poster. So one more thing going on her CV, and she already had it done. So it wasn't like an extra requirement for her. These are the review elements for ASH. They're slightly different from ARA. They want to know how you're going to contribute to the knowledge of the field. How original is your work? Are you filling a gap in the literature? What frameworks are you using? Have you identified the most relevant literature on that topic? They're evaluating your analytic plan, and then they're just looking for overall clarity. And this link again will take you to the ASH call for proposals. All of them are very informative. So for CIAS, you went to this last year, right, Melba? Yeah. Do you know where it is next year? California?
It's San Francisco, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's in California.
What is
So
this stand for?
it's the Comparative and International Education Society. Yes. So it's in San Francisco, is that what you said? And ASH is in Portland in November. ARA is in Toronto next month, but next year I think it's in California as well. So not really convenient for us, but good excuses to
I
travel
don't know, they haven't
This year is
said,
San Francisco.
this year's San
but
Francisco,
next
they haven't
year-
said, told
yeah,
us what
they
it is
haven't
next
said
year
where
yet.
for
next year.
CIS.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
don't know yet.
All right. Yeah, the only thing about being so far away is that it's really expensive to travel there.
Yeah.
Like this year or this past semester, Ash was in Tampa, and so it was just a quick drive, which was really convenient. But yeah, so CIS rules, same thing. Membership is not necessary. You can't double dip. They have format and type options that you need to specify in your proposal. So a paper, a poster, a roundtable, and the type. You can submit an applied research proposal, more conceptual or theoretical, or an empirical paper that you have written potentially already. Double-blind review process, and they have varying word limits depending on the format, I believe.
There's one other thing for the format, the session type, they also do a panel where you have a discussant,
Yeah,
so that's another type.
panel as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. So these are the rubrics that they have listed in their call for proposals of what they're looking for in each of these types of submissions. And so as long as you're answering these questions, if you stick closely to this, then it will definitely help you out in the review process. When you give your proposals to your advisor for feedback, I would recommend giving them something like this, like giving them the criteria that they're looking for, just to make their life easier so that they don't have to go and do extra work because they're already helping you out in that regard. And this link will take you to the CIES call for proposals as well. Okay, that's all I have. Quick, to the point. Does anyone have any questions for me that I might be able to answer? And if not, I will turn it over to Leaf and Marshall, and we can kind of get into more of the experiential questions of what is it like, what feedback have you gotten, all that kind of stuff.
I'm just curious if you know of any other resources to look for, look for conferences. These are the big three I know. But then I'm attending a conference next month, but it's a content, it's Asian studies. So but I only know because I'm a member.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's places that we can find other relevant conferences that are local or international, anything, because I don't know how to start looking.
I have a list of journals, but I don't know if I have a list of associations, which we could probably put together. I think it'd be helpful for students.
Yeah.
I know that professors will share random things, like Dr. Schwartz talks about the Southern or Southeast historical something.
Oh.
Yeah, so professors
Yeah.
definitely know these things.
It's in our handbook
Okay.
at the end.
And sometimes you can, not that this is the best way to go about it, but you can also look at your advisor's CV and see where they presented. And so I've done that before. But yeah, we can maybe start like a repository, just like a list of some regional associations or conferences that might be more reasonable for students to travel to. So.
Or even here at FSU, last year we presented at the social work, media and.
Oh, the South Asian.
Yeah.
Culture, media and culture studies. They have that every year.
Yeah. And that was good. That was good.
There's also like a women in leadership thing, which isn't, you wouldn't think immediately about education, but you could definitely tie education into that if they take submissions and whatnot. But yeah, it's a good idea.
There's also other summits, right? Like that multicultural leadership summit that's held here is another one.
Yeah.
Because Liz just presented that.
And I wanted to ask about that. I don't know if anybody has had experience with this, but in ELPS, is the department or COGS even, are they supportive if you want to attend like other types of multicultural summits? Like, for example, the Essence Fest. Like, I'm going to sit on a panel this year. But I don't know if that's something like the department will support because maybe they don't understand like why, you know?
I don't see why they wouldn't if you justify, like if you tell them why it's important. I think that they're pretty open and excited to give students funding to take advantage of opportunities like that, because not only is it benefiting you, but it's also beneficial to the department because you'll probably bring back things, or that's a new connection that they've made with that symposium or organization. So I would be surprised if they.
And that rationale is also part of the.
It's part of the application, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be long either. I think I put I'm presenting work that's being conducted by faculty and graduate students in Florida State University, and I hope to meet other individuals with similar research interests to collaborate on future projects. Simple. Yeah. COGS, they have attendance grants and presentation grants. And so I think for sure for the presentation, the attendance for sure, but maybe even for the presentation since you're on a panel, you just have to submit like documentation.
Okay.
Like your name is somewhere listed on an agenda or on a program, that kind of thing.
Okay. I just didn't know because like everybody's always talking about like
The big ones, yeah.
conferences.
Mhm.
And like there's another big expo, South by Southwest. You know, they do a whole segment for education. So
Oh.
I wasn't sure if like the boundaries or barriers of what counts.
I say go for it.
Yeah, like the conference I'm going to next month, it's not education based at all. There's actually very little on education. But I'm still getting money to go and just attend. So like it doesn't have to be education focused, and if you just justify like that it's a summit, I'm doing this and this is why it's important.
Okay, so questions for Marshall and Alif, who have successfully submitted conference proposals and presented and collaborated with individuals. My collaboration is like with my supervisor. So it was like not optional, and I was like third person on the list, so like I didn't do all of the work. And so I wanted to bring in some minds who are more experienced and knowledgeable than mine.
I'll just introduce myself
Yeah.
real quick. I am Marshall Anthony Jr. I am a third-year PhD candidate in the higher education program, so in ELPS. I am hoping to the end of the semester.
Yes, he's going to the
Yes,
business
I'm going to
semester.
the business semester. I'm originally from Greensboro, North Carolina. Did my undergrad and master's at North Carolina State. I will say, as Holly said, yes, I have successfully gotten accepted, and I have successfully gotten rejected from some of them. And so the ones I've been accepted to was ASH. I've been to the presented at NCORS, I think the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity 1 year, and the African American American Association of Blacks in Higher Education. At ASH specifically, I've done both group and individual ones. And I will say, as Holly had said before I just be quiet, I have used definitely a lot of my group papers, or a lot of my final papers, I should say that, to present, because a lot of times the professors tend to model them after what's asked for anyway. I applied to ARE, I didn't get into that one. And I know it's because I did it at the beginning of my quant journey. So personally, I went back and I was like, oh, that's So I'm looking to do my dissertation there hopefully next year. And so I'll leave it there and a lot of you.
Hi all, my name is Amy Boss. I am a doctoral candidate. This is my 6th year. And I will hopefully graduate in summer 2019. Hopefully. So I prepared proposals for ARA. I got rejected all from all of them. When I prepared my own, like as the primary author.
Yeah.
But I have other collaborative work with Dr. Preston, so they got accepted. So, but I wasn't in the process of developing a proposal for ARA for that part. And I submitted applications to AEFP, Association for Education, Finance and Policy. So this is actually for EP students. So, but I don't know anybody who also applied to the AEFP conference. The good part with AEFP is that it's not a whole paper, so you can submit proposals, abstracts. I'm good at writing abstracts, but not whole paper. So yeah, I am presenting in March. I just sent a proposal about my dissertation topic, so part of my dissertation. And I also applied to APAM Association for Public Policy goes, but I just don't remember its full name. So yeah, but my experience is usually around abstract submissions rather than full submissions. One thing that I can say about AERA is that what I learned in the hard way. So first of all, selecting a division is really important. The people who will read your proposal will change based on that. And sometimes, for instance, I submitted a qualitative paper, which was a case study, where I went to a school. The case was the school, and there are 3 different teachers there. I observed what they had done in terms of the implementation of the new curriculum. And my paper was about that, but I submitted to Science Education, I guess it was 5 years ago. And I got it rejected because they said that the number of people included in the study is too low. But it's a qualitative study. I said that it's a case study, so but it was really immersed in the school. So, but yeah, anyway. For qualitative studies, especially, it's important, and also I think it also applies to quantitative studies where all people, most of the people are from qualitative backgrounds. Sometimes they might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you feel like you got good feedback from the reviewers? Like, did you get tangible things from them?
No,
Or?
not really. It's just about the number of participants. But for another one, yes, I did get good feedback. It was useful. I knew, I knew that, but I didn't have time. Another thing that I want to say about AERA is that don't be upset when you got rejected, because it happens to everybody, and sometimes it's just kind of arbitrary.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I would
just
say,
send it to somewhere else.
yeah, and definitely with the divisions, I know that one of my other friends applied to the policy one, I think, for AERA, and I know that both of ours got rejected from that one, but she got accepted in another division. So I think sometimes the different divisions sometimes are a little harder, and some of them may be harder than others to get in. So possibly chat with your advisor or someone to see, you know, it's a lot of times, especially with education, our subject is interdisciplinary, so it can fit within, like, you know, maybe policy and a post-secondary or another type of division as well. I think for at least for grad students, you know, getting the one, I'm not saying I'll challenge yourself, by all means we all challenge ourselves, but while we're at the beginning of this, you know, maybe aim for the one that's not, that's a little bit more, have a higher acceptance rate for division, because they all sort of work different. And then I'll also say with the feedback, you may get, even if you get it accepted, sometimes it's like one reviewer, because there's multiple reviewers sometimes. I know for Ash, I think it's like 3. And one of them may be like, I didn't want it to be in, but the other 2 might be supportive. So again, it's very, the reliability sometimes in between the graders are different too. So just like anything, sort of take what you know is sort of well, but if it's like you said, a case study or something where it's just like, I feel like this was a sample size, you know yourself best. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
What about funding? How do you go about getting the funds? Because you know, to attend these conferences.
All right, expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't have a lot of coin. So I will say, yeah, as Holly said, the department is very generous with you. You can typically, what I experienced, I think in my first year, if you are during your first year, you're attending, I think there definitely are understanding of that. I think after your first year, if you're just attending and not presenting, they'll still, from my experience, give you something that may be lower. If you are presenting, it may not cover everything, and I mean, to keep in mind, it's expensive to fly out of Tallahassee. And my first couple of assistantships I got some funding, but it wasn't a lot. We may just have to piecemeal. But I have heard COGS is very popular. And, one last thing, I do know that, I think with the exception of ASH, a lot of the really large ones have state level ones too. And so I do know that there's a Florida version of the AERA that's, I believe, always in Florida.
Yeah, I think so. This past year, it was like
Makes
at the
sense.
same time as ASH.
Yeah.
And Machinima, so like it.
And it was there, so even if, you may think about doing more local ones to keep the costs down, to maybe travel to all the Florida is a huge state. But
There's also a program evaluation one that's like in Tallahassee, like the headquarters are here,
Yeah.
and I think they
Yeah.
might have their conference here.
AI.
Dr. Schrader for sure knows about it, but that's something just down on Main Street that you can look into. You said something that.
About COGS, be careful about that. They have a limited amount of resource, and it's first comes, first served. So, and also they have application periods based on when your conference will be held. So, just apply as early as you can based on those application times. Sometimes, especially for if like ARA, for instance, right now is is an international one, so they give more money to international travels, so they may run out of money quickly. So be careful about that. But you can apply, I guess, for 2 times. But for the second time, I haven't tried, but for the second time, they just need writing from your advisor. But that's all, I guess.
Yeah, I've had it actually say, thank you, but I don't need this money anymore to COGS. And so I think some students might do that if they get back and they were like under budget and they don't need that money anymore. But yeah, I think for international travel, if you're presenting, it's like $500 they give you, which is potentially a plane ticket. So have either of you taken what you've presented at conferences and submitted it to journals for publication and been successful?
Soon.
Or not successful, because sometimes you learn from them as well.
So I presented something in CIS conference, and based on the feedback that I got, and I prepared a manuscript to be submitted to their journal. So yeah.
You take the feedback that they give you and
Yeah.
should.
I haven't
Sure.
submitted a presentation that I have for a conference, but I have now a chapter and presenting something else that didn't have nothing to do with what I presented on. So I can't primarily speak to that one, but I do know that's the typical route. People usually present it at the conference first, get that a lot of times submitted in either the journal of the conference or some of the, like ASH, I think they run the Review of Higher Education journal. Sometimes they present it.
For sure. Have you all collaborated with like classmates on anything, and how do you go about like bringing up, hey, do you want to write a paper with me and submit to a conference? Like, how do you get someone on board to do a lot of work?
Well, I didn't have any experience
No, that's okay.
with that, but yeah.
But you have with Dr. Preston at least. Is that something that she initiated?
But I mean, the reason why she included my name is that I contributed to a literature review, for instance, for a paper that we will publish.
Yeah.
So she just included my name for the proposal. So
That's real nice.
it wasn't much like a collaboration. We didn't have a proposal back and forth. So
Kind of. Did work to.
Yeah, I did a lot of the collaboration on my master's program because it was very collaboration based. So you didn't really work on like few assignments that was solo. Some of the final papers were, but even then, sometimes you work with other people. For at least my program, a lot of our stuff is individual, so it's class papers and stuff wise. And I had a sort of a topic that didn't relate to a lot of other people. So for me, I haven't collaborated with any, I'm trying to think, with any proposals, with any presentations I've done at the doc level. Most of mine, because it's only been final papers and stuff like that. So, but I do know sometimes for people's assistantship and for work, those tend to be more collaborative in nature, and those are the ones people tend to submit jointly. So, you know, it's pretty much out there. And they don't go to waste, so, you know, and hopefully, I don't know, hopefully most people are tailoring their final papers towards their dissertation. And so what I found is, I mean, you can get, you know, local feedback from your professor and from other people. And I will personally say being at this stage of the journey has helped immensely by narrowing it to that. And you can sort of, and it just honestly keeps getting better, even if it's not accepted in some other way. At least you become a more of an expert or specialist in your.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take my large data sets paper and submit it to ARA and,
Yeah,
Recycle.
that's how I started.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Recycle.
and then for qual, it's not like you don't actually do a project now, but if you do like qualitative data analysis, then maybe you can have a paper at the end to submit. I'm trying to think of other, we're not higher ed in here, but.
Can I also add, I will say, you know, definitely also take advantage of things that, so you have the traditional sort of sessions too, where you sit in a room and there's sort of 3 presenters and you each have maybe 10 minutes. And so I would say, you know, definitely try to challenge yourself in that area too. But what I will say also is the ones that definitely usually get accepted are the rounds. If there's some type of a round table or something like that, especially if you're a little nervous at first, I know I was. And so I said, let me try to do a round table first. It's pretty much just a free for all. And there are numbers sometimes at each table, and there's like 3 people, and you literally are just going through a round table, talking amongst each other in a small group. And those count too as being accepted. You can put them on your CV, you can put them on your resume. And so maybe just testing the water then first. I know when I did ASH, sometimes I did both. So sometimes I would present one that I really felt comfortable with and comfortable enough, not just with the content, but comfortable enough to speak about in front of a room full of quote unquote scholars, right? Or faculty at least. Because a lot of times the roundtable, sometimes grad students tend to go to that one the most. Even if a faculty member is on there, sometimes what they do is they tell their grad students to go and not do those. So it feels more of like your general community. And then the paper sessions are the ones where it's a more diverse group. And so I would say also challenge yourself in that area. And you still get, at least from my experience, the department values both. You getting in a conference, no matter how you got in there, even if you're presenting around it, you're still presenting your work because that's still got evaluated too.
Yeah, I'm going to ARA completely free on a roundtable.
Yeah.
What's the clear difference between the formal presentation and roundtable?
Yeah, so the formal ones are you pretty much go in, and they can differ between conferences, but typically you go into your room, it's 3 presenters, you have 10 minutes apiece, just to literally do an overview. You can't do a deep dive, and then they have somebody called like a discussant to discuss the papers in front of the audience that's there. The roundtables they don't have the discussant, so all you're doing is literally say we all got our final papers together and just sat in circles, and we just say, what's your final paper on? What's your paper on? What's your paper on? It's more like that. So it's definitely more informal, and it's in a huge, it's like a ballroom. So it's loud, and it's a little bit more informal in that nature.
And I will say, I've been to some roundtable sessions where, so it is typically 3 papers and they try to group them by themes. Like maybe it's all about adults in higher education or it's all about community college students. This is just for me personally, some individuals will come to the table and listen to the first person and then get up and leave.
Yeah.
Maybe I was surprised because when I go to a table, I'm committed to that table and I stay there.
And it's not that long.
It's really not, because then it might make the other authors seem like, oh, well, they don't care about my work. They just want to come and hear what Tim was going to talk about. And so that's just some of the unspoken, one of the things about roundtables that you should do is commit when you choose a table, because there are a lot that are probably appealing, but if I haven't been able to go, so there were 2 things I wanted to go to at the same time. A lot of the authors are really willing to share their presentations with you after the conference. And so you can say like, hi, Dr. So-and-so, I was really interested in attending your presentation. It wasn't able to. Would you mind sharing the materials with me?
Yeah.
I'm a graduate student. You can always throw that in there. And I think it kind of helps. But yeah, roundtables count just as much.
Yeah. And sometimes the other presenters don't show up. So one of
Yeah.
my last times where I did one at Ash, I was the only one at the table. So even the other two groups didn't even show up at the table. So one of my friends came with me and I was just talking with her. But so don't feel bad either. You got it there because it's more informal. So nobody checks that this is a huge room. But I will also say I don't recommend that. And I'm not assuming stuff could have come up a lot. I don't know what happened. But you just never know. And I just think that, you submit one is, even if you are there by yourself, just, you are representing the institution and stuff as well. You never know. But sometimes stuff just show up. They may have.
And you're sitting with other people who are probably writing on the same topic because that's how they try to group it. And so you could end up writing a proposal with the person sitting next to you.
Yeah.
Like you never know who you're going to meet at these conferences. And I feel like if you ask faculty, they will tell you that they meet these collaborators at conferences mostly, or they're like friends from grad school. But yeah, so just keep that in mind. It's definitely a good place to network as well.
A lot of times the new faculty, new assistant professors still take advantage of them. They're sometimes just as nervous as we are. So.
Yeah.
They're always willing to give you advice too. Like the first time I presented was last year in Mexico. And, like the other people that were presenting with me were already, on your second or third research. Like there was this well-known, professor at Harvard who was presenting as a third speaker. The second one was finishing up her second, I think, study abroad. Like, and they're all doing new stuff and they're willing to share, and they validate your work too. Like I was thinking, what am I doing here? Like, and I was the one who, I was thrown in. Like you're starting the whole conversation because this is what your paper does. It anchors everything in it.
Yeah.
And I also would like to add, to the question before that you posed, Holly, is that you want to look at not just articles, but like Brittany and I today got our review of a book published in Gender and Education. So that's something else that we hadn't even thought about, but our advisors said, guys, you need to do that. Emily wrote a chapter with her advisor also. So those are things that you want to. You definitely want to do. Ask your advisor. Our advisor is really good about saying, guys, you'd be good at this and help me do this and so forth. Like ask, look at opportunities that usually we don't think about that. And she's really good at doing that.
And if you're not getting that from your advisor, say you want to be getting that from your advisor.
Yeah.
Because they should assume that you're interested in publications or at least presenting at conferences, but sometimes you got to advocate for yourself. So don't be afraid to do that.
Or work with another student, with a classmate, and ask advice from your advisor about how to go about it.
Yeah.
Or a professor.
Yeah.
If they aren't your advisor, you could still potentially collaborate. Any other questions? I'm going to give you all their contact info. And then I had some,
Yeah, also, so, I would say, and I know it can be nerve-wracking a lot of times, conferences that, everybody's trying to present their stuff, but what I have found was it is good practice to just start to get to talking about your research in some way, because the dissertation, the prospectus, and, final defenses, it's just you in a room full of everybody. So at least with the conferences, it's not just you. And at least you'll feel comfortable. And I think that's why they try to have it in there. Because if you haven't done it at all, and then you get to that point, I'm sure it's gonna feel crazy. Because even if you have, it's still different than just being you in a room because you really don't have anybody else to be off of. So just allow yourself the opportunity, no matter where it is, to just get to a place where you can be like, oh, I can talk about, my lit review things or something like that. You'll appreciate it better towards the back end by giving yourself that.
You get questions at the conferences as well. So be prepared to answer some questions about your research because you're definitely going to get questions at your prospectus and dissertation defenses as well. Just some final thoughts here. Clearness, cohesiveness. If you have tables and figures, it definitely helps kind of break up some of the text, and you can sometimes just show things better in a table or a figure. Make sure you're addressing all the elements in the call for proposals they're evaluating on. Connect to the theme, and like you said, choose your division wisely, because, or the special interest group, because it really can make a big difference if they don't send it between. And then this video was one that Cassie, who was previously in this role in Learn, saved from ARA, where they went over the process if they had some professor reviewing what they were looking for and kind of giving some tips and whatnot. And then there was, I think, a recent doctoral graduate who talked about her experience as well. So yeah, I will be sure to put this up on Facebook so that everyone has access to it. But yeah, there's still time this year to submit proposals. So it's not too late, I wouldn't say, especially for ARA, because it's such a short, it's only 1,500 words. And if you break it up into those 6 elements, then it's a little bit easier to manage. So, all right, contact info as well. Okay, y'all, thanks for coming.
Holly, do you remember the date of the first luncheon then?